Wanted wife accidentally. Caleb Boone nailed the notice to the post outside the general store with grim determination. Wanted cook, no nonsense. By sundown, he already regretted the wording. Lila Hart arrived with dust on her boots, optimism in her eyes, and a suitcase that looked as though it had survived several poor decisions. She read the sign twice, smiled as if fate had personally invited her, and marched straight to his ranch. Caleb barely finished saying, "This is a working ranch," before she replied, "Perfect. I work, sometimes." By the time she set her suitcase on his porch, neighbors were already peeking. A woman, a suitcase. Caleb Boone, unmarried The assumptions bloomed like prairie flowers after rain. Caleb discovered the rumor at the saloon, where the bartender slapped him on the back and said, "Didn't know you had it in you, Boone." In what PHLAST? Settling down. Across the room, Leela was being hugged by 3 women she'd never met and handed advice ranging from biscuits to babies. Caleb tried to correct them. Truly, he did. But each attempt drowned under delighted gasps and someone yelling, "Oh, he's shy." When Leela finally escaped the crowd, she looked at him with wide eyes and whispered, "Apparently, we're engaged." Caleb pinched the bridge of his nose. "We are absolutely not." She glanced back at the smiling townsfolk. "If we say that out loud, they'll never let us eat in peace again." He hesitated. That was how the silence became consent. They drafted their agreement at the kitchen table. No romance, no affection, no emotional entanglements. Lila insisted on one clause: honesty between them, even if they lied to everyone else. Caleb agreed, mostly because he didn't know how to argue with someone who smiled while negotiating like a lawyer. They shook hands. It felt oddly serious for something so foolish. Outside, the town celebrated the engagement with fireworks borrowed from Independence Day and a banner that read, "About time." Lila laughed until she cried. Caleb told himself he didn't notice how good her laughter sounded in his house. Lila could not cook. She tried earnestly, enthusiastically, but somehow managed to burn water. Caleb complained every morning while secretly packing lunches she made anyway. She rearranged the kitchen, planted flowers without asking, and taught the horses new names. Caleb argued with her constantly. It became the highlight of his day. When she teased him about smiling, he denied it. When she fixed the porch step he'd meant to repair for years, he thanked her gruffly. They were pretending. They were also getting dangerously comfortable. Red Willow insisted on doing things properly. That meant dances, church, and a picnic supervised by half the town. At the dance, Caleb stepped on Lila's foot twice. She forgave him both times and stepped closer anyway. At church, their shoulders brushed, and neither moved away. The picnic ended with ants in the basket and laughter in the grass. Caleb realized he hadn't laughed like that since before life became only work. Leela caught him looking at her and raised a brow. "Careful, rancher, that's rule-breaking." He looked away too late. Fireflies blinked like secrets in the dark. Lila leaned against the porch rail, and Caleb stood close enough to smell lavender and dust. They talked quietly about nothing important and everything that mattered. Her voice softened, his hands stilled. For one breathless moment, the world narrowed to the space between them. Then Lila stepped back. "We should not." Caleb nodded. Neither slept much that night. The traveling salesman smiled too much and laughed too easily. Lila enjoyed the attention, mostly because Caleb looked like he'd swallowed a nail. He told himself it didn't matter. He told himself a lot of lies lately. When the salesman asked Lila to dance, Caleb interrupted with a stiff, "My fiancé needs help." Lila blinked. "I do." "Yes," he said, immediately. She followed him outside, grinning. That sounded real. It wasn't, he said. They both knew it was close. The fight came fast and loud. Words spilled fake, temporary, plan each, sharper than the last. Lila accused Caleb of hiding. Caleb accused Lila of never staying. The truth hurt because it was true. She packed her suitcase that night. Red Willow learned the truth the next morning. Shock turned into outrage, then determination. "You're both idiots," the mayor said kindly. Someone planned a wedding, anyway. Someone else locked the church. The town had decided love was inevitable. Caleb didn't argue. He just went after Lila. Lila stood by the stagecoach suitcase at her feet. Caleb rode in hard, breathless, honest. "I don't want pretend," he said. "I want you." She searched his face. "For real." "For real," he said, terrifyingly so. She smiled through tears. Caleb proposed. Without kneeling he forgot, but with sincerity that made the town go quiet. Lila said yes before he finished. Applause broke out. Someone fainted. Someone cried. Red Willow cheered like it had won a bet. Wedding planning was louder than a cattle drive. Lila laughed through it all. Caleb endured fittings and vows with equal bravery. They learned each other's rhythms, quiet mornings, noisy evenings, shared coffee, shared silence. This time, nothing was pretend. The sun rose warm and gold. Lila walked down the aisle, smiling. Caleb forgot how to breathe. Their vows were simple, honest, perfect. When they kissed, the town swore, the church glowed, the biscuits still burned. The ranch stayed messy, but the house filled with music, laughter, and love. Caleb learned to loosen up. Lila learned to stay. They argued. They made up. They danced in the kitchen. The old sign came down. No more wanted notices. Caleb Boone had everything he needed. Lila Hart had finally come home. 5 years later, the sign outside the general store had changed. It no longer read, "Wanted cook, no nonsense." Now it said, "Wanted extra hands for the Boone Ranch. Sense of humor required." Lila Boone leaned against the porch rail, one hip cocked, watching their children chase a chicken across the yard in a scene that was equal parts chaos and joy. Her laughter rang out bright, familiar, and still capable of stopping Caleb Boone in his tracks. Caleb stood nearby, older now, softer around the edges, with lines at the corners of his eyes. Earned from smiling too much, he pretended to scold the children, while secretly enjoying every second of the noise he once would have considered intolerable. "Do you ever miss quiet?" Lila asked, sliding her hand into his. He shook his head without hesitation. "I had quiet once. Turns out it was just loneliness, with better manners." She smiled at that, and rested her head against his shoulder. The ranch looked different. These days flowers everywhere. Mismatched furniture, laughter baked into the walls. The biscuits still burned now and then, but Caleb claimed they tasted better when made by someone who loved him. As the sun dipped low, painting the prairie gold, Caleb pulled Lila close and kissed her like he always did, slow, certain and grateful. Wanted no more. Loved beyond reason. And in Red Willow, everyone agreed it was the happiest misunderstanding the town had ever made. Like and subscribe. Aurora Tale Wild West. God bless.